You are watching
I just want
Xirtus.
to shout out to Tim because hey, we love each other. Come on, guys, let's all be happy.
I'm sure you will.
They got rid of CNN on the press tour, and you can see that Tim is on the press tour now. Where's the video? I just had it up here. Is this it? There we go.
Presented in this room.
Now, is he going to be permanent fixture here for a couple of weeks, or was this like a one-time thing?
I haven't asked him. I think he's going to come back and forth sometimes, but I think that they're trying to revolve the door as much as possible with social media, and he has a lot of other stuff going on. But yeah, so he
wore a tie for once and take off the whatever. He can do what he wants. I don't care. It's just,
I'm glad you said something.
That are represented in
Great
this
question.
room have
like Luke Rude Boy Rudkowski, he wears a clip-on tie, like I do sometimes, even though I wear a normal tie. Because like the thing about a tie is a great weapon for or against you, and so a clip-on tie, they can't choke you with it, and you can still take someone's eye out with that thing.
He can do what he wants. It just kind of reminded me of Zelensky a little bit. Like this is his uniform, because when Tim Pool is at war, that he's got the beanie helmet. It's like I don't know, whatever.
We're gonna go into that actually. So
are we?
Let's hear what Tim said first.
In lockstep on false. Many of the news organizations that are represented in this room have marched in lockstep on false narratives, such as the Very Fine People hoax, the Covington smear, and now what's being called the Maryland Man hoax, where an MS-13 gang member adjudicated by two different judges, I believe, is just simply being referred to as a Maryland Man over and over again. Now, in an effort from the White House to expand access to new companies, you've created this new media seat. So I'm wondering if you can comment on, following this expansion, you've had numerous outlets disparage the companies that you've had sit here, as well as the reporters. I'm wondering if you could comment on that unprofessional behavior, as well as elaborate if there's any plans to expand access to new companies.
Sure. Well, we certainly welcome diverse viewpoints in this room, which is one of the
many of the news.
Yeah. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I don't think they let her answer in that clip, but she does go on and explain. But the thing that's funny is because like he's being brought in because CNN is considered to be a biased news source, right? And there's a big conspiracy. All the left are like, oh man, this guy, because Tim was falsely accused of being involved with Laura Loomer's. He had sold some reruns of his show to some truth media company, right? And that was somehow financed by RT. And he didn't know that RT had anything to do with that. But then they were like, oh, well, this guy is clearly working for RT, which is working for the Russian government. So therefore, he is a Russian agent. And so that
isn't it funny how they pick and choose when they become total conspiracy theorists to the max, depending on bias. Like it's just
ridiculous. It's crazy because it becomes straight up like red lines. They're like, these are red lines.
Like they're literally doing the Pepe meme. It's just crazy. Yeah.
But it's not like he had been commissioned by RT to make some content. It was content that he himself wanted to make and then licensed it to RT. So I don't even understand what did he return the money or anything, or is he like, I made money off RT?
I don't know if he returned the money, but it was like he didn't get money from RT, although the money might have at some point been in like the people he got money from had gotten money from RT.
It's like what happened with Jackson Pollock, where it's like he was getting financed by the CIA because of Russia, right? Because they wanted to like push this kind of art scene. But it's not like he had any idea. Like he didn't have to know any of that. And in fact, I seriously doubt he knew until maybe years later, if ever. He may not have even ever known that because he doesn't have to. He just was like, finally, I'm getting the recognition as the great artist that I am. It wasn't like,
But
this is what you thought too.
Right.
But there had been a push about Trump being a Russian agent, right? This was a thing that the left had been pushing for the last 4 to 6 years, that he's a Russian agent, right? Like, what do we know about the rumor that Trump was recruited by the KGB in 1987 from Snopes, Trump given the codename Krasnov? Have you heard this story? How deep have you ever? We just dismissed a lot of this, and I think it's worth maybe like knowing what the accusation is, because it's an interesting accusation, and it's basically that as the Soviet Union was collapsing in the late 80s, and you had a bunch of Russian agents, that KGB agents like Putin and Medvedev, who became Putin's vice president, that they were all involved in the Panama Papers, right? And so the Panama Papers is a really interesting, darn it, it's one of those, I did the tab instead of the window share. Panama Papers is an interesting idea where if you start a company in another country that's not Russia, then you have someone who lives in that country be in charge of the company. So like, let's say I go from Russia to, you know, Italy or to Brazil or to these Caribbean islands where the British are doing the same thing. And a lot of these British companies will have Sacks and trusts where everything's owned by somebody in another country, right? And that way they can wash their money. Well, the Soviet Union was doing the same thing. They knew what the CIA and the British were doing. You know, and the CIA had been doing this at least since Cuba, building fake television companies. And they had in Florida a Zenith television repair company, which was just recruiting people from the Cuba war so they could do the Bay of Pigs. The Bay of Pigs was financed by the Xenon repair television company that had way too much money, right? And we see this with USAID, all of these companies that the government, I mean, In-Q-Tel, Facebook, that the In-Q-Tel is the government, the CIA investment branch, and invested in technology. It shows how much money they're making outside of taxes by running companies. And you know, you do this for a certain amount of time. Eventually, the rest of the people figure it out. But this is 2025. We're talking the 80s. The CIA were being studied by the Soviets, and then we had communist double agent spies. You know, America's filled with communists as well. Even then, the CIA is filled with communists. So they knew how to do this. And one of the ideas was you build a company somewhere else, you have someone own that company, but they only own 2% of the company. And then 98% of the company's bonds and certificates of ownership have no one's name on them. They're just nameless. But the documents that 98% of the company, those are in a bank vault. And then you can go at any the CIA or the KGB or whomever is supposed to be the partner. They can show up at the bank, open the vault, and walk away with briefcases that have all of the bonds and certificates of the company. And they own 98% of the company without it ever saying on that their name is never associated with the company, right? And this is what the Panama Papers were all about. And that's what the Soviet Union KGB agents who couldn't make any, they weren't getting paid enough by the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union even told them, like, okay, what your job is you're going to go to West Germany and you're going to patent Russian and communist inventions and technologies so that we have an excuse for you to be over there. And you can sell VCRs to, you know, to the Balkans or something. But really what they're doing is they're taking photos of all the other patents and they're copying them and sending them to Russia. So it's like they're pretending that they're trying to westernize, you know, their Soviet products, but really they're westernizing the Soviet Union by stealing information they can while they're over there.
By the way, everything you're saying is complete. Just to be clear, this isn't a conspiracy theory. It's completely disclosed.
Yeah, this is
like
history.
Everything you're talking about. This is not. I'm just saying for anybody listening, this is nothing that you're saying so far is debatable at all.
Just this sounds like Chinese foreign policy with way more steps. Like,
well, Rockefeller's added more steps for lead, right? So Rockefeller's. Because you have you have Arm & Hammer and Rockefeller involved in the creation of the Soviet Union. Well, the sustaining of the Soviet Union for sure. But you know, even the Rothschilds were involved in the creation of the Soviet Union. Stalin was robbing Rothschild banks. That's where he got the money to finance Lenin, right? Which is why he was associated at all and ended up in charge, killing people in charge of the Soviet Union.
That explains Imagine from John Lennon. I always wondered about that, but
dude,
so you're talking about
all the people. Yeah, and then the idea that the
Soviet
Union,
right? Because that was like a Communist Manifesto song, and that was part of the deal.
All the people. It's still really popular with the Maoists.
Yeah.